Hello and welcome to More Talks. I am W.C. Moore. This is Biden's speech on October 28th, 2021 about his Build Back Better plan.
Today, I'm pleased to announce that after months of tough and thoughtful negotiations, I know we have a historic economic framework. It's a framework that will create millions of jobs.
Now, historic is always a bad word. Historic usually means a lot of money. So we will see. And the government should not be creating jobs. Creating jobs, it should be down to businesses. Government should just get out of businesses' way and let them do the work.
Grow the economy, invest in our nation and our people.
Again, growing the economy is down to good business. The government can do deals with other people, but it's mainly down to companies again. Invest in the people, we'll see what he means by that.
Turn the climate crisis into an opportunity and put us on a path not only to compete, but to win the economic competition.
Why is the climate crisis going to help you win the economic competition? Or were you on about the other stuff before that? I mean, the climate crisis is a bunch of hooey anyway.
For the 21st century against China and every other major country in the world. It's fiscally responsible. It's fully paid for.
Well, we'll see if it's fully paid for. If it's fully paid for, then yes, it is fiscally responsible. But we shall see.
17 Nobel Prize winners in economics have said it will lower the inflationary pressures.
You've said this several times, but you've never come out with proof about that. They want to see evidence that that's what these Nobel economic people say.
On the economy. And over the next 10 years, it will not add to the deficit at all. It will actually reduce the deficit, according to.
Okay, we can look at that. If you get voted out in 3 years' time, we'll see if it's reduced the deficit at all, or we'll see if the deficit's gone up under your watch.
The economist. I want to thank my colleagues in the Congress for their leadership. We spent hours and hours and hours over months and months working on this. No one got everything they wanted, including me. But that's what compromise is. That's consensus.
Yes, that is what compromise is, and the whole government should be about compromise. No one should get everything that they want.
And that's what I ran on. I've long said compromise and consensus are the only way to get big things done in a democracy.
It is not a democracy, it is a democratic republic. And consensus is the only way to get anything done, not just the big things.
Important things done for the country. I know it's hard. I know how deeply people feel about the things that they fight for. But this framework includes historic investments in our nation and in our people.
Again, historic investments usually means expensive investments, but he seems to think it's going to save money, so we will see.
Any single element of this framework would fundamentally be viewed as a fundamental change in America. Taken
Why do we want to fundamentally change America?
together, they're truly consequential. I'll have more to say after I return from the critical meetings in Europe this week.
These are critical meetings on climate change. We're going to fly from the US to Britain on a jet, and you're going to put all that CO2 in the air.
But for now, let me lay out a few points. First, we face, and I apologize for saying this again, we face an inflection point as a nation. For most of the 20th century, we led the world by a significant margin because we invested in our people, not only in our roads and our highways and our bridges, but in our people and our families. We didn't just build an interstate highway system.
You didn't just build an interstate highway system. That is true. Eisenhower had to fight for that.
We built a highway to the sky. We invested to win the space race, and we won. We're also among the first to provide access to free education for all Americans, beginning back in the late 1800s. That decision alone to invest in our children and their families was a major part of why we were able to lead the world for much of the 20th century.
Investing in children is a great thing. Free education from kindergarten, 12th grade, that's a great thing. But if the schools are failing, then the parents need the power to change schools. That's why you need school vouchers, and then the parents get that money and they can only use it to go to another school, but they can go somewhere and get the best education for their kids.
But somewhere along the way, we stopped investing in ourselves, investing in our people. America is still the largest economy in the world. We still have the most productive workers and most innovative minds in the world. But we've risked losing our edge as a nation. Our infrastructure used to be rated the best in the world. Today, according to the World Economic Forum, we rank 13th in the world. We used to lead the world in educational achievement. Now the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development ranks America 35th.
Well, how about when people go to college, you actually teach them these college courses instead of social justice, instead of brainwashing them?
Of the 37 major countries when it comes to investing in early childhood education and care. We know how our children start impacts significantly on how they'll finish. We can't be competitive in the 21st century global economy if we continue this slide. That's why I've said all along, we need to build America from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down.
You need to get production back into America. Stop producing your crap in China and Mexico and everywhere else where there's slave labor and it's a penny a day or a dollar a day. Get production back in the US. Prices will go up a little bit, but it should be better quality, and you won't have all these issues with the ports and things.
With the trickle-down economics that's always failed us. I can't think
That is a lie. Trickle-down economics do not always fail.
of a single time when the middle class has done well that the wealthy haven't done very well. I think of many times, including now, when the wealthy, the super wealthy, do very well, and the middle class don't do well. That's why I propose the investments Congress is now considering in two critical pieces of legislation.
So if the rich are doing very well and the poor aren't, how are you going to fix that? The only way to, in inverted commas, make it better is to destroy the rich's economy or the rich's money. And so everybody's doing badly then. Is that how you prefer it?
Positions I ran on as president, positions I announced when I laid out in a joint session of Congress what my economic agenda was. These are not about left versus right, or moderate versus progressive, or anything else that pits Americans against one another. This is about competitiveness versus complacency. Competitiveness versus complacency. It's about
Why do you always lean forward and talk quietly? It is as if you're talking down to us. We are kind of intelligent sometimes, so talk to us properly and let us figure it out. If we can't, we can always ask questions. Or the press can ask questions for us because that should be their job instead of just bowing down to everything you say.
about expanding opportunity, not opportunity denied. It's about leading the world.
Where is the opportunity denied? Where are people being denied these opportunities that you keep on talking about?
Or letting the world pass us by. Today, with my Democratic colleagues, we have a framework.
What about the Republicans? You said compromise. Don't they count?
For my Build Back Better initiative. And here's how it will fundamentally change the lives of millions of people for the better. Millions of you are in the so-called sandwich generation who feel financially squeezed by raising a child and caring for an aging parent. About 820,000 seniors in America and people with disabilities have applied for Medicaid, and they're on a waiting list right now to get home care. They need some help. They don't have to be kicked out of their homes, but they need a little help getting around.
But again, how much is this going to cost? This is new money, so the money has to come from somewhere.
Having their meals made occasionally for them. They don't want to put them in nursing homes, not because of the cost, but because it's a matter of dignity.
You were complaining a few years ago about the cost of nursing homes. Now it's not because of the cost.
Want to stay in their homes, but it's hard. You're just looking for an answer so your parents can keep living independently with dignity. For millions of families in America, this issue is the most important issue they're facing. It's personal. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to expand services for seniors so families can get help from well-trained, well-paid professionals.
Where is the money coming from? Especially if they're well-paid professionals. Am I going to be paying it? Or the government? If the government is, where's it coming from?
Help them take care of their parents at home, to cook meals for them, to get their groceries for them, to help them get around, to help them live in their own home with the dignity they deserve to be afforded. Quite frankly, what we found is that this is more popular or as popular as anything else we're proposing.
Anytime you try and give people money, it's popular. Half the reason you got voted in was you said you'd give everyone $1,400. That's bribery.
Because the American people understand the need. It's a matter of dignity and pride for our parents. 30 years ago, we ranked number 7 among the advanced economies in the world as a share of women working. You know where we are today? We ranked 23rd. 23rd.
But is that because women don't want to work? I mean, a lot of women stay at home with their kids. So that is a bad statistic to go by, or a bad list to go by. It depends on the reason these women are staying at home.
7 to 23. Once again, our competitors are investing, and we're standing still. Today, there are nearly 2 million women in America not working today simply because they can't afford child care. Typical family spends about $11,000 a year on child care. Some states, it's $14,500 a year per child. We're going to make sure nearly all families earning less than $300,000 a year will pay no more than 7% of their income for child care.
But again, where is this money coming from? And 7% of 300,000 is 21,000 if my math is right. And so that's more than the 11,000 you're talking about.
And for a family making $100,000 a year, that will save them more than $5,000 in child care. This is a fundamental game changer for families.
But where's this $5,000 a year coming from?
And for our economy, as more parents, especially women, can get back to work and work in the workforce. I'm looking at a lot of significant press people in front of me. A lot of them are working mothers. They know what it costs. I remember when I got to the Senate, I lost my wife and daughter in an accident, my 2 boys. I started commuting 250 miles a day because I had my mom and my dad and my brother and my sister to help me take care of my kids because I couldn't afford child care, and I was getting a serious salary, $42,000 a year. We've also extended the historic middle-class tax cut. That's what I call it, middle-class tax cut for parents. That is the expanded child tax credit we passed through the American.
So that's not a tax cut, and that's already going on now. Trump passed that. You may have extended it, but you did not pass it.
American Rescue Plan. What that means is, for folks at home, they're getting $300 a month for every child under the age of 6, $250 for every child under the age of 18. We're extending that for another year. The money is already a life changer for so many working families.
Again, where's it coming from?
This will help cut child poverty in half this year, according to experts.
All these programs that have ever been put in to get rid of poverty, to cut poverty, they never work because people can spend on what they want and they don't spend it on what you think they will.
But that's not all it does. It changes the whole dynamic for working parents. In the past, if you paid taxes and had a good income, you could deduct under the tax code $2,000 per child from the taxes you owed. But how many families do you know a cashier, waiters, healthcare workers, who never got the benefit of the full tax credit because they didn't have that much to deduct.
None of them, because they may not have deducted it, but they were given that money in cash by the government. It's called a tax refund.
And it wasn't refundable.
That is a lie. I got it.
So it either came off your tax bill or you didn't get full credit.
Again, that is a lie. I got it.
Why should somebody making $500,000 a year, or $150,000 or $200,000 a year get to write it off their taxes? And the people who need the help even more, they don't have that much tax to pay. They don't get the benefit, and they have the
Don't lie.
same cost of raising their children. 80% of those left out were working parents who just didn't make enough money.
If they didn't get it, then they did their taxes wrong.
That's why in the American Rescue Plan, we didn't just expand the amount of the middle class tax cut. We also made it refundable. This framework will make it permanently refundable.
Again, the way you're talking, either you're very slow or you think we are very slow.
Making sure that the families who need it get a full credit for it, in addition to those who are already getting a full credit. They're going to make sure that every 3- and 4-year-old child in America go to high-quality preschool. That's part of the legislation I just brought up to the Congress. Studies show that when we put 3 and 4 years old in school, not daycare, school, we increase by up to 47% the chance that that child, no matter what their background, will be able to earn a college degree.
Now, I agree with you about the price of childcare. We were both working and we found childcare hard, but we found a private school that would take them at a young age, and that was cheaper than childcare. So we saved money there. If you look around, you can find things. And is this just because you want more indoctrination or longer indoctrination than our kids?
As my wife Jill is in the back here, we always says, any country that out-educates us is going to outcompete us. We can finally take us from 12 years to 14 years of universal education in America.
Why do you need 14 years?
We also make investments in higher education by increasing Pell Grants to help students from lower-income families.
Again, there's a lot of spending so far, no saving yet.
Attend community colleges and 4-year schools. And we invest in historically black universities, colleges and universities, HBCUs, minority-serving institutions, and tribal colleges to make sure every young student has a shot at a good-paying job in the future.
What about the white students? You mentioned all the people of color. What about the white students? Can they get a chance as well?
This framework extends tax credits to lower premiums for folks who are in the Affordable Care Act.
That has already cost billions. Now you're going to cost more?
For another 3 years. For 4 million folks in the 12 states that haven't expanded Medicaid, all the rest have, this framework will enable you to get affordable coverage. And Medicare will now cover the cost of hearing aids and hearing checkups. This framework also makes the most significant investment to deal with the climate crisis ever happened.
Again, that's just a waste of money.
Beyond any other advanced nation in the world, over 1 billion metric tons of emission reductions, at least 10 times bigger on climate than any bill that has ever passed before, and enough to position us for a 50 to 52% emission reductions by the year 2030.
How about you just build nuclear plants, and then you can get rid of all your coal and oil plants and gas plants? Just build nuclear. That will cut the emissions drastically.
And we'll do it in ways that grow the domestic industries, create good-paying union jobs.
Again, what is it with you and union jobs?
Address long-standing environmental injustices as well.
Environmental injustice. What the hell do you mean by that?
Tax credit to help people do things like weatherize their homes so they use less energy.
You already do that. I was looking at one for solar.
Install solar panels and develop clean energy products and help business produce more clean energy. And when paired with the bipartisan infrastructure bill, we will truly transform this nation. Historic investments in passenger rail. I know everybody says, oh, Biden's a rail guy. That's true.
So are you only talking about one bill out of two here? If so, then what the hell is in the other bill?
But passenger rail and freight rail and public transit, it's going to make take hundreds of thousands of vehicles off the road.
The problem is it costs way too much. I was going to go on a rail journey with Amtrak, and it was ridiculously priced. It was cheap to, even now with gas prices flying through the roof, it would be cheaper to drive to New Orleans than it would be to take the train.
Saving millions of barrels of oil. Everybody knows, all the studies show, if you can get from point A to point B on electric rail, you won't drive your car.
Why? The electric rail won't go to every place that you want to go with your car. And I come from a country that has lots of rail, but you still drive your car to places.
You'll take the rail service. We also learned that in
And it also depends on the cost of the rail service.
most major cities in America, minority populations, the jobs they used to have in town, they're now out of town. Roughly 60% of the folks, they don't have vehicles, so they need to have a means to get out of town.
Is that 60% of minorities don't have vehicles? Or 60% of people who live in cities don't have vehicles?
To their jobs, to be on time. This will do that, like it did for Detroit. 95% of the 840,000 school buses in America run on diesel. Every day, more than 25 million children and thousands of bus drivers breathe polluted air on the way to and from school from the diesel exhaust. We're going to replace thousands of these.
How bad are these buses if they are in the bus and they're breathing the diesel?
With electric school buses.
How much will they cost? And studies have shown that it uses more carbon to make all the parts and make the electric and run the electric car than it does a gas-powered car.
That have big batteries underneath it, and that are good for the climate. I went down to one of the manufacturing facilities, saw them, got in one, drive them. They do not expend any. They not expend any pollution into the air.
They may not do when they get in the vehicle, but what about digging the mines for all this stuff? And what about making all these batteries? You're using the regular power grid, which because you're not on nuclear, you're using carbon dioxide.
We'll build out the first ever national network of 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations all across the country.
Again, nothing of where money's coming from yet. And you're more than halfway through.
So when you buy an electric vehicle, and you get credit for buying it, you buy an electric vehicle, you go all the way across America on a single tank of gas, figuratively speaking. It's not gas. You plug it in. 500,000 of them.
When do these cars start? Because last time I saw, you could only go about 500 miles.
These stations along the way. We're going to get off the sidelines on manufacturing solar panels and wind farms and electric vehicles with targeted manufacturing credits. You manufacture, you get them a credit for doing it. These will help grow the supply chains in communities too often left behind. And we're going to reward countries for paying good wages, for companies, I should say, for good wages and for sourcing the materials from here in the United States.
First of all, how are you going to reward companies for paying good wages? You're just talking about raising taxes in all companies. And what if you can't get the resources for these things in this country? This country does not have necessarily all the mines it needs to get all the minerals you need to make these batteries in cars.
That means tens of millions of panels and turbines doubling the number of electric vehicles we have on the road within just 3 years. We'll be able to sell and export these products and technologies to the rest of the world and creating thousands more jobs because we are once again going to be the innovators. We'll also make historic investments in environmental cleanup and remediation. That means putting people to work in good paying jobs at prevailing wage, capping hundreds of thousands of abandoned wells and gas wells, oil and gas wells, that need to be capped because they are leaking things that hurt the air.
They don't need to be capped. They need to be run again so the gas prices will go down.
Putting a stop to the methane leaks in the pipelines, protecting the health of our communities.
Methane leaks. If it's just in the ground naturally, it leaks. That's what it does.
It's a big deal. And we'll build up our resilience for the next superstorm, drought, wildfires, and hurricanes that represent a blinking code red for America and the world.
Why does natural bad weather represent a code red?
Last year alone, these types of extreme weather events you've all been covering and you've all witnessed and some of you have been caught in the middle of have caused $99 billion in damage to the United States within the last year. $99 billion.
That's because things cost a lot more now.
We're not spending any money to deal with this. It's costing us significantly. In Pittsburgh, I met an IBEW electrical worker who climbs up on those power lines in the middle of a storm to try to put transformers in to keep the lights on when storms hit. He calls himself a 100% union guy. His job's dangerous. As he said, I quote, "I don't want my kids growing up in a world where the threat of climate change hangs over their heads," end of quote. Folks.
That's good to hear, because they aren't in that kind of world.
We all have that obligation to our children and to our grandchildren. The bipartisan infrastructure bill is also the most significant investment since we built the interstate highway system and won the space race decades ago.
Yeah, which put our national debt way through the roof. And you just said you wouldn't do that. So how are you going to spend? How are you going to pay for all this?
This is about rebuilding the arteries of our economy. Across the country now, there are 45,000 bridges and 173,000 miles of roads that are in poor condition. Some of the bridges you don't even take a chance of going across. They're shut down.
Are these federal or these state? Because you shouldn't be touching the state ones.
They can't be built back to the same standard because the weather's not going to get a lot better. We just got to keep from getting a heck of a lot worse. We have to build back better and.
How is bad weather going to stop you from building a good bridge?
Stronger. No one should have to hold their breath as they cross a rundown bridge or a dangerous intersection in their hometown.
That's none of your business in a town. That's up to the city or the county or the state. It's not up to federal.
Good union jobs at prevailing wages.
Again, what is it with you and union jobs? I realize unions vote for you, but you should be promoting good jobs, full stop. Sorry, I'm in America. Good jobs, period.
Jobs you can raise a family on. My dad would say you have a little breathing room. Jobs that can't be outsourced. Jobs replacing lead water pipes so families can drink clean water.
How is Flint, Michigan? The state is run by Democrats, the city is run by Democrats. Are those pipes fixed yet? If you can't even do one town, then what makes you think you can do a whole country?
Improving the health of our children and putting plumbers and pipe fitters to work. Jobs laying thousands of miles of transmission lines to build a modern energy grid. Jobs making a high-speed internet affordable and available everywhere in rural and urban America.
As I've said before, people who don't live in the city, they know they're going to get crappy internet. So they should not be crying about it, and you should not be paying for it.
Particularly including the 35% of rural America that goes without it right now. This pandemic has made clear the need for affordable and available high-speed internet. The idea of a parent having to put their kids in the car for virtual learning, drive and sit in a McDonald's parking lot so the child can access the internet when school is taught virtually.
Let's be honest, when school's taught virtually, no kid did it. That is why in my local school district, they told everyone no more virtual learning. Because the kids who were at home virtually learning were getting behind.
It's not only unnecessary, it's just wrong. It's wrong. As I said before, these plans are fiscally responsible. They are fully paid for.
How? This is the second or third time you said they're fully paid for. You have not mentioned one time how they're going to be paid.
They don't add a single penny to the deficit. They don't raise taxes on anyone making less than $400,000 a year.
So it sounds like you're going to pay this 1.75 trillion using rich people only. I can't see how that is possible.
In fact, they reduced the deficit. Here's how. I don't want
Finally, he's going to tell us.
to punish anyone's success. I'm a capitalist.
You don't want to punish anyone's success, but then you're just about to say you're going to tax rich people.
I want everyone to be able to, if they want to be a millionaire or billionaire, to be able to seek their goal. But all I'm asking is pay your fair share.
How about we do a new tax rate of just say 10% for everybody? If it's good enough for God, it's good enough for the government. How about 10% for everybody? You can't take anything off, you can't claim anything, and that is it. You pay 10% of your wages. You don't get anything back from the government, and everyone pays their fair share, their 10%.
Pay your fair share. Pay your fair share.
It doesn't matter how many times you repeat it. If you tax a rich person 25% and I'm taxed 10%, I'm not paying my fair share.
And right now, many of them are paying virtually nothing.
Again, that is another lie. They may not pay anything in income tax because they don't get income, but their companies are paying a lot of money in corporate tax.
Last year, the 55 most profitable corporations in America, 55 of them, paid zero in federal income tax.
I cannot believe that, but is income tax the same as corporate tax? If they're different, then that's why, because they're paying corporate tax and not income tax.
On about $40 billion in profit. If they report big profits to their shareholders, they should be paying taxes. It's that simple.
They do pay taxes. It may not be income taxes, as I said, but they do pay taxes. You are being very disingenuous here.
That's why the Build Back Better framework will have a 15% minimum on the largest corporations, a minimum tax of 15%.
You said in one of your recent speeches that the US is at the moment on 21%. So they're already paying minimum 15%.
The top 1% of the wealthiest Americans evade, is estimated by the experts, $160 billion a year in federal taxes. That's wrong.
Tighten up the tax law or do a flat tax.
We're going to change that. I want to emphasize what I said from the beginning. Under my plans, if you earn less than $400,000, you won't pay a single penny more in federal taxes.
But changing this in catching these people who are not paying taxes, is this your little idea where the bank has to report anyone who withdraws or puts into their account $600 or more? Then you are getting the banks to report me and there's no evidence against me. That is against the Fourth Amendment.
Period. In fact, these bills continue cutting taxes for middle class, for child care, for health care, so much more. Let me close with this. For much too long, working people of this nation, in the middle class of this country, have been dealt out of the American deal. It's time.
How have we been dealt out the American deal? And how are you cutting taxes? Giving people giving people the child tax credit is just giving them a payment. It is not cutting taxes. The middle class are not dealt out of being in America or dealt out of American opportunity.
Time to deal them back in. I ran for president saying it was time to reduce the burden on the middle class, to rebuild the backbone of this nation, working people and the middle class. I couldn't have been any clearer.
Why is it that no one's going back to work then if you're trying to build the backbone? Backbone is people going back to work.
The very moment I announced my candidacy. That's why I wrote these bills in the first place and took them to the people. I campaigned on them, and the American people spoke. This agenda, the agenda that's in these bills, is what 81 million Americans voted for.
I mean, nobody in the real world believes that 81 million people voted for you, especially since apparently 80 million people voted for Trump. A lot of people who voted for you didn't vote for you and for your agenda. They voted against Trump. There should be that little thing on the voting slip. Yeah, check Biden then. Did you vote for his agenda or did you vote against his opponent?
More people voted than any time in American history. That's what they voted for. Their voices deserve to be heard, not denied, or worse, ignored. Because here's what I know. If we make these investments, there will be no stopping the American people or America.
There'll be no America left, that's why. You're destroying America if you're doing all this, if you're spending all this money.
We will own the future. I've long said it's never been a good bet to bet against the American people. I've said that to foreign leaders as well as everyone here in this country.
But nobody's ever heard you say it.
Which means it's always a good bet to bet on the American people. Just give them half a chance. And that's what we're doing. That's what these plans do. They're about betting on America.
Get out of our lives then. Get rid of the Patriot Act. Get rid of the Federal Education Department. Get rid of the Federal Health Department. Let states do all this stuff. That is the job of states. That is what the 10th Amendment's about.
About believing in America, about believing in the capacity of the American people. If you look at the history of the journey of this nation, what becomes crystal clear is this. I'll say it again. Given half a chance, the American people have never, ever, ever, ever let the country down. So let's get this done. God bless you all.